This is episode 24, Mergers, Acquisitions, and Turnarounds, How Your Career Can Lead to Greater Service with Daniel Prescott Jr., merger, acquisition, and turnaround guru for Fortune 50 companies who now leads communities and people to seeing the unseen and turning around the underlying systemic causes, those unseen perpetrators of poverty, crime, and racism from decades of difficulty into opportunity, hope, and success. The first in this season of the Successible She podcast series, Seeing the Unseen and Taking Action. Hello, everybody. Dorothy Kuhn here, and I am delighted to have with me Daniel Prescott Jr., President and CEO of Services of Hope in Dallas. Mr. Prescott is a former U.S. Marine who graduated from Rutgers University and from Divinity School at Harvard. He and his wife Doris have 5 beautiful grown children, and so needed in this time. His work with Services of Hope and leading that organization has really racism and social justice issues that are needed even more now than ever. And of course, as I mentioned, he does serve as president as well as CEO of Services of Hope. Daniel, what led you to do what you do?
I think that the biggest motivating factor for myself has always been wanting to serve, always wanting to give back. It started very early in life, seeing my mother do it through her church and through what she did for people in the community. And it just always gravitated towards helping. And when I got into a position in corporate America, I thought it was the right thing to do as a volunteer, and then eventually going to seminary and running a faith-based nonprofit.
Wonderful. So, give our listeners an idea of the kinds of companies that you worked for before you transitioned to running and leading Services of Hope.
I spent a little bit over 20 years in mergers and acquisitions, working for companies run by investment bankers. So I've had the opportunity to work in the U.S., offshore, and my specialty is manufacturing turnaround. Anything that is manufacturing is my wheelhouse. So I've worked for companies from Briggs Construction Equipment to James Hardy to Celanese Chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
Johnson and Johnson, just to name a few. So if you make it, I can turn it around.
There you go. And that turning those things around, I have a background in that from working in Texas Instruments on the military systems side. And it was so gratifying to take a struggling part of the organization and streamline it. It's all about systems and processes and people and streamlining them so that people have what they need when they need it, so that progress, it just flows and it makes a huge difference. Is that kind of generally speaking similar to what your approach might have been?
Oh, absolutely. That has been the approach. And the funny thing is, my wife has always said to me, she said, "How come you don't ever go work for a good company?" And I always tell her, anybody can run a good company. You have to be a hardened professional to run a company that's in bankruptcy or
Mm-hmm.
a company that is in dire straits. Not
Yeah.
anybody can do that.
I agree 100%. And that's really where the challenge is, to get
Mhm.
people out of a difficult situation. And it's just, a different group of people in a different context of what you're doing with Services of Hope. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I use a lot of those corporate America skills. I combine them with the skills I learned in seminary, and that's how we help families, because we're working with families that life has dealt a bad hand, and
Mm-hmm.
they're in some untenable situations that they don't see a way out.
Yeah.
And so we work with them on finding those solutions, and then we also work with, churches, city governments, who are all trying to do good for the community, but they have some problems that they just can't do. And whether it's doing the census, whether it's doing, City of Dallas had a program where dogs and cats had to be sprayed, neutered, and microchipped. We did programs like that. So as we said, our start working with kids in juvenile justice. There's always a challenge, and that's what we love to do.
Yes, yes, and that makes such a difference in the lives of people, and people who are melanin challenged like me often don't realize how different that kind of low level legal system is, the misdemeanor system is for our brothers and sisters of color. That I can jaywalk and have absolutely no fear that I'm going to get a ticket or anything like that. Those tickets are pretty pricey, and the people who get ticketed are people of lower economic status, and it keeps people in that spiral of having to pay the money and go through all the steps to finish it up. And in the legal system, well, it makes sense to lawyers, but a regular person would never guess.
No, no, you're absolutely right, and I think that what people overlook is that we talk about marijuana as a gateway drug. Well, a misdemeanor is a gateway crime. Being stopped and asked to show your license, being stopped and harassed, being afraid to drive past a police officer, all those things start to create cultural biases, and those cultural biases become ingrained in me. I ingrain them in my kids, they ingrain them in their kids, i.e., we create systemic racism.
Yeah.
And now we've moved from racism to classism. And so that's what what this big movement is about right now. It's an awakening. It's a revolution.
Mm-hmm. It is, and I'm so glad to see it. And I'll tell a story on myself if it's okay with you.
Please.
And so when I first moved into this neighborhood, I've lived in Denton, Texas, since 2012. And when you move into a new house, well, there is a ton of stuff to do, and I hadn't really paid much attention to the uh, to what was going on in the neighborhood. And I come home one day to I was driving up to the house, and I see a black man walking down the street, just across the street from my house on the other side, talking on a cell phone. And immediately, I had this flash of fear come up. Now, I I didn't know what that was about. And this was right after the Trayvon Martin killing, where George Zimmerman white man was the perpetrator of that crime. But, it was all over the news and all that kind of stuff. And it's that kind of thing that, as a white person, at least at that time, I had the presence of mind to catch myself and say, Dorothy, take a deep breath. What's going on here? It's the middle of the afternoon. A man is nicely dressed. He's walking down the street, talking on his phone. I do that all the time. Is there anything wrong with walking down the street? Yeah, I walk my dogs all the time, and half the time I'm on the phone. I should be listening to the trees and the birds and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, sometimes. Anyway, I was able to realize, oh, that is my own personal example of implicit bias jumping up.
No, you're right.
Yeah. And so, just because you have a reaction doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're a socialized person. Because in this country, we've got all of these stories about different kinds of people. And we don't have particularly great stories we have a lot of really bad stories about Black men.
Yes.
And that makes life really hard for those men and their families.
No. Agreed.
So, dear listeners, I hope you kind of take that to heart. I learned from making a mistake, and I'm hoping that you will find a way to learn too. So let me see, where do I want to go from here? So that our white brothers and sisters really get what life is like, uh, and how to be an ally, how to be an ally for someone who is being unduly judged in the moment. What would you advise?
I think that the biggest thing is that, Dr. King said it best. You must judge a man by his character.
Mm-hmm.
And people sometimes don't take the time to get to know other people, to know their character. We make snap judgments based on what TV has said, the media has said. And
Mm-hmm.
so we never give them that chance. Like you said about seeing that person walking across the street from your house, and had you have not made that mental shift, you could have picked up the phone like that young lady did in Central Park and called the police. And
Yeah,
so it's, to me, the biggest thing that we have to do is we have to get to know people and give them the opportunity to show who they are,
it's true.
show their true character, to show the true them. Because Dr. King said, we judge the character of a man not where you stand in the calm, but where you stand in the storm.
Yeah.
And right now, our country's in a storm,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great to see great people of all hues, the Rainbow Coalition, standing up and saying, you know what, enough is enough. Black lives matter, and we're part of the problem. Now we have to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And that's what I ask people to do, is to have more interactions like you and I are having with this show right now, is to say, let's find where we can make these changes. And it could be something small and subtle change. And I'll give you an example. I had a phone call earlier this week from a business counterpart in Phoenix, Arizona, who runs a similar organization. And he called and says, I don't want to talk business today. All I want to do is apologize that I've never realized what you go through. And he
Oh,
said, I never realized how hard, when you and I are at these meetings, how hard it is for you to make a point because you automatically get discounted because of your color and because of who you are. And whereas I can walk into a room and I can say and do what I want, but you're always guarded. He said, I now understand why you dress the way you dress, talk the way you talk, because you have to always be guarded, and one small slip changes perceptions.
it does.
And so it's examples like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I
And
can,
so now becoming aware more and more of those things, that silence that
mhm.
we've got to push down.
I, I so get that. And, I will, like, I tinker with cars. I grew up in so I have a similar kind of experience as a woman because people don't expect me to know anything about building or automobiles or anything like that. And I grew up in the garage with my daddy because he was kind of the PTSD guy,
Hmm.
and but the garage was a safe place. He was happy there, and he wouldn't like fly off the handle. So I grew up in the garage with daddy when he was working on cars. And so when I show up at the auto zone, I'm somebody new there. The people who know me, I don't have to say this again, but I'll say, I know I don't look the part, but blah blah blah, and then I'll tell them what I want because otherwise they'd assume that a middle class white woman wouldn't know squat about a car.
Right? It's very
But I
true.
have rebuilt two automotive engines from the block up. Now it's
Look,
been
you
years,
have different
but
skills.
some things you just remember.
Hmm. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I don't look the part, do I?
Nope, no, you don't.
And
But
so,
I think, Dorothy, that is so similar to, we African American men don't look the part of being intellectually endowed. We don't look the part of being intelligent. We don't look the part of being leaders. We
mm,
don't look the part of being great fathers. We don't look the part of being great providers. We look the part of the criminal. We look the part of homeless. we looked the part of danger. And so, yes, though those examples to give it are great examples because that's the different dichotomy that a black man faces in America today. And we then give that to our young black boys growing up. They give it to their black boys. And so it creates a whole tough environment
It
that
does.
we're now trying to change.
Yeah, that's the burden of presumption
Hmm.
and when children are presumed to be less than, they will start showing up as less than, because it's like that drip 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 of the Chinese water torture thing. It's just horrible. I know I had that the other day. I have a very good friend. He and I walk the dogs every evening, and a black man, fine character. We've been friends for years, since I've been in this neighborhood. And this is the first time. I'm in my 60s. This is the first neighborhood I have ever in my life lived in where there were people of color.
Interesting.
That's normative for folks who look like me.
Right.
And when you don't grow up around folks who look like you, then all you get is the socialization from the TV and the radio and the movies.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's not a healthy dose of socialization
No.
for us. So it makes a big difference to have friends of color. Try it. It's great. So my white listeners. So let's once somebody has identified what it is, in their life that they can, a person like me, that they can really change. What is something that you would recommend to help them really kind of grow in the kind of brotherly, sisterly love that, from my perspective as a Christian woman, the Lord calls us all to be?
So the best thing that we could all do is on Sunday go cross cultural because it still hadn't changed for hundreds of years. Sunday between 11 and 1 are the most segregated hours in America. And I think if we could go cross cultural and if we could share our religiosity with each other, if we could volunteer together, if we could go on mission trips together, I think that goes a long way to change and to get to know each other.
I agree. And in my church, Trinity Presbyterian here in Denton, we do that with an AME church
Mm-hmm.
here about 2 or 3 miles away.
Excellent.
We do that about once a quarter. We'll just go back and forth, and it makes all the difference to get to
It
know
does.
people.
It does.
Yeah, and to that it helps diffuse those socialized presumptions, and nobody wants to think the wrong thing about somebody else. But if without any direct experience, you won't realize that you're making, you know, a presumption that somebody else made, and it just kind of slipped into your consciousness.
No, very true.
Well, how can people, your organization does such wonderful work. I'd love for you to describe a little bit about more about the work that you do to help people who are feeling, they're feeling like they're under the foot of all of that socialization and oppression, and how to help them get out. So, mention some of the things that you all do.
Well, I think the three big things that we do, we call it practicing the non-intrusive gospel. We
Practicing the what?
the non-intrusive gospel.
The non-intrusive gospel. Ooh.
We practice and model who and what we believe in. So you say, how do we change people? When you come to us, 90% of our staff came as people wanting our services. And they took our service and then they found that it lifted them up and they wanted to give back and they came on staff. We have a lot of young students who come as interns, then they move to staff. And then we have a program where you can spend a year with us, that gap year between graduating college and going to grad school. And they come and they see where that felt need syndrome is, and they meet that felt need, and then they're able to go out because they feel that void within their soul, because they see it's more than just education, it's a life experience. And that's how we do it. Or if you're a mother who's struggling, you can then come to us and we can give you the tools that you need. And it's not just food, it's support, it's encouragement, it's the
Mm-hmm.
confidence that you need now to go out and meet those challenges that you have. And so that's some of the examples of how we do it.
I love that. I love that because, you know, when people have felt downtrodden, trod down, then, you know, what they need is that, you know, somebody to believe in them, somebody to get the boot off their neck, to use a very current phrase.
Yes.
And it makes a huge difference. And I know I've had a boot of sorts on my neck in my life. I had a long and difficult marriage where nothing that I did was good enough. And you know, there are all kinds of ways in which that boot on the neck can show up. And just it took, you know, over time, that drip, 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 it took my ability to believe in myself away. Even so, the rest of my life was okay. You know, people couldn't see what was going on, the verbal and emotional
Mm-hmm.
stabs and slights that
I
over
know.
time just build up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, this is great. Well, how can people contact you? Is Services of Hope, is that the URL?
Yes. So three ways to contact us. So it's name Services of Hope, www.servicesofhope.org. Our phone number, 214 7, I'm sorry, 214 276 0235. 214 276 0235. Or just give me a call or shoot me a text at 214-707-2396. 214-707-2396. Love to talk to you. Love to exchange texts or emails.
And I'll put that information in the show notes so that people can contact you, because you're a nonprofit. You take donations, is that right?
Absolutely. We
And
love
you love
that.
to have volunteers, is that right?
Mhm. Yes, we love donations. We have volunteer work for your family to yourself. So we do a lot of family friendly events as we are opening back up now. And then we
Mhm.
always are looking for, if you have an old car, to you have furniture that you want to donate.
Good, 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 good. Oops, my poor dog.
I hear.
I know, I hear him too. He's just out of reach. I can't give him a little scratch on the ears. He's got a little bit of hard to breathe, and you know, a day like today kind of bothers him.
Mm.
So, well, this has just been fantastic, Daniel. I'm just so delighted to be able to share the good work that you're doing here in North Texas. And I'm sure Dallas and the rest of North Texas is all the better for the work you do. So you all jump on that site, and there's a donate button on that site.
Yes, there's a donate button, and you can donate to a program. You can donate to Greatest Needs. So you can donate there, or if you want, we can send you another link and you can donate the change from your debit card or credit card transaction. So we have multiple ways, or if you want to use your Amazon points to us, we take all of those.
Very good, very good. That's very creative. I love it. I love it.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much, good sir, for your time and for the wonderful work you do to make the world a more just and equitable place. We certainly need that now more than ever.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thank you for the opportunity to sit and talk today about social justice and racism and how it's impacting our country and each and every one of us. So thank you.
My pleasure, and we will chat soon. Bye for now.
Right.
Hold on, before you go anywhere, I want to make sure you know how much I appreciate your listening ear on the Successful She podcast. And as such, I want you to know that I don't only want to make a difference here to you on the podcast weekly, but actually I want to be in there with you in your business, in your life, every single day, helping you overcome the things that other people can shock you with, so you can avoid shocked response syndrome and transform from stewing, shouting, shrinking, or shunning those people who don't respect or appreciate you, those situations that get in your way and even stop you, so that instead you'll be standing up for yourself with confidence, respect, and fun, and drive the results you want and honestly that you deserve. So I want to invite you to our free Successful She community of practice for you, the woman who knows there's more for you in your business, in your personal life, and in your social life. It's an invite-only free online community of high-level women achievers, and this is where you can get ongoing trainings and interactions with me, where you can learn and grow with like-minded influencers and thought leaders, share best practices, and of course, get monthly micro trainings and book recommendations from me and my team. So our members range from women who own and lead businesses, professional women, to women who lead in your community, family, and movements. We would so benefit from having you, and we know you will get so much value out of this group as well, especially if you really appreciate what I bring you on the show. So if you do, head on over to dorothykuhn.com/community. That's where you'll have the opportunity to join the Successful She community of practice. We host it on Facebook, so go to dorothykuhn.com/community, answer a couple of questions, and then request the invite. We'll check you out and can't wait for you to join us inside our group. Thank you for listening. Success will be yours.